Hello and welcome to the Verity channel, where our aim is to introduce you to amazing humans who have achieved uncommon results, and to do so in a way that makes perfect sense to all of us, so that we can also emulate those steps in our own careers and also in our own lives. Now, today's interview is actually filmed in front of 150 of Brisbane's finest company owners and executives. And during the interview, we feature our very own Brisbane Lord Mayor, Adrian Schrinner. Adrian has been with the Brisbane City Council for over 16 years, and during that time has held a staggering 11 different positions. This also included being elected as Brisbane's youngest deputy mayor at the age of 33, before being elected to Brisbane's Lord Mayor position in 2019, where today he looks after over 1.25 million Brisbane residents. Today's interview is done in 3 parts. During the first, we will talk about previous, current and future projects, and we'll even share with you Adrian's most favourite initiative during his time as Lord Mayor. The second interview will then go into the 2032 Olympics, and we'll talk a bit more in detail about what to expect over the coming weeks, months and years. History will also say that Adrian was the Lord Mayor when Brisbane was awarded the 2032 Olympics, another historical moment for both us and for him in his career. And then finally, we'll talk about the e-mobility strategy that was released from the Lord Mayor's office, which is not only the first of its kind in Australia, but also in the world. So thank you for watching the video, and if you do find value out of it, remember to like and share the content with others also. So without further ado, here's the interview with our very own Brisbane Lord Mayor, Adrian Schrinner. History will say that you were the Lord Mayor when Brisbane was awarded the 2032 Olympics. Congratulations. Yeah? Should be very proud of that.
Look, it is something that I have to pinch myself about, especially when you think that we've had Tokyo Olympics, and then it's coming to Paris next, then Los Angeles, then Brisbane. So even to be in that lineup of cities is fascinating. But I have to say it was a team effort. It was really a team effort, all 3 levels of government, and even started as well 6 years ago with my predecessor Graham Quirk when he was Lord Mayor. He kicked it off, and I was happy to take on the baton and sort of bring it home, but still a lot of work to do to get there. But yeah, it's one of those special moments in life you'll never forget. Absolutely, and to mention there's quite a lot of work to do. We've actually featured the Olympics quite heavily in previous lunches that we've had. We had Sean Gallagher here from Populous, Jason O'Prey as well, was one of the Sunshine Coast councillors. So they've kind of given us, I guess, a bit of a heads up in terms of what's involved with getting it over the line, and then also looking forward. Looking ahead of the next sort of specifically 2 years or so, what are the next steps and the things that we can all look forward to that's happening that you're able to share with us from your perspective? One of the critical things, and it's happening right now, is actually the formation of the Olympic Organising Committee. So there's some draft legislation, state government legislation that's been put forward, and that basically sets up the organising committee for the 2032 Games. Now, a lot of people in business here, a lot of people who get and understand the running of boards. This is a board to run the Olympics. The challenge here, there's at least 22 people that'll be on that board. Hands up anyone that thinks that a board with 22 people on it will work well. No. That's the challenge. But look, the reality is we've got stakeholders from all 3 different levels of government. We've got the sports and Olympic stakeholders, and then there's independent board members as well. So it's about making sure everyone gets a say and everyone is involved, but that's what's happening at the moment. So that board will be, I guess, set in legislation by the end of this calendar year. So it'll come into effect, I think, in December, and then it'll be about filling those positions. Some of those positions are up for grabs if you're interested. Anyone interested? No? Not obviously 122 though, no. So there's at least 5 independent positions on that board for interested members of the business community or the community, and there'll be a recruitment process around that, which is very exciting. But it's about getting the best people for that job and making sure that we get that very large board working well. So that's sort of stage 1.
and then out of that, a lot of other things will come.
That makes perfect sense. Grant always talks about strategy being the first thing you've got to actually do, and what you're doing is getting the team right to be able to set the strategy to move forward. So that makes perfect sense. It's nice to hear somebody in the public sector actually speak sense to people in the private sector. Is that fair to say? They all nodded yes, by the way. So that's the next stage. Again, looking forward beyond that, there's going to be huge benefits to all of us in the room in terms of the Olympics coming to town, so to speak. Are there any other things that's I guess beyond that planning stage that's happening next that's worthwhile sharing with us? And I'm thinking, I guess as well, infrastructure is a big one, right? So there's going to be a lot of infrastructure developments and so forth. In fact, you know what? Let's flip the script. I'll ask you in a different way. What can we do as business owners to actually support your office and also to support each other so we can actually make the best of the Olympics ourselves?
Well, that's a really good question, and one that we've been putting a lot of thought into. And so there's going to be direct benefits for a number of businesses in southeast Queensland and across Australia. And those direct benefits are things like, building new facilities, upgrading infrastructure. There's going to be opportunities to supply to a lot of projects. There'll be opportunities even across different sectors for local procurement. So, think about all of the things you'll need to either build the facilities or host the Olympic Games. There's going to be great supply opportunities directly for the Olympics. So a lot of people are putting their mind to that. But then there's going to be a whole heap of indirect benefits and opportunities as well. So it might not be that your business has any direct link to the Olympics, but there's going to be opportunities to capture new business, new customers, to grow your business just by proximity to the Olympics or being in an Olympic city. And one of the biggest things, I think, is it's really hard to define the value of having a city being known around the world. And so if you look at most of the Olympic cities that we've seen in the past, most of them are already well-known cities. And the list of cities I read out before, Tokyo, Paris, Los Angeles, we've had London, Beijing, and you can think of all of those big global megacities that have hosted the Olympics. But a few of the Olympic cities are smaller cities, and there's a few, sort of like Brisbane, where they may have been less well known before they got the Olympics. Barcelona, not so well known. Atlanta, not so well known. And so for cities like Brisbane, Barcelona and Atlanta, there's actually more to be gained from the Olympics because it's about elevating the city to that global recognition. And so how do you put a value on people knowing your name? In business, people knowing the name of your business is so critical. It's got a value attached to it, and the same thing goes for a city. So just having people knowing about Brisbane is going to be critical. If you did a global poll and you ask people which Australian cities they know or locations, you'd find people do know Sydney, people do know Melbourne. I think, sadly, at this point in time, more people know about Ayers Rock or Uluru than know about Brisbane. And so we're going to change that. That will change in the next 10 years so that everyone in this globe has heard the name Brisbane, knows where it is, and understands a bit more about Brisbane. But the benefit of the Olympics as well is they'll see the visuals. They'll see what Brisbane and southeast Queensland is like. And if you think about how broadcast technology has changed, we see all of the digital streaming opportunities, but we also see a much more interactive process when it comes to filming events. So picture it's the marathon, and the marathon, maybe held down the Gold Coast, maybe at the Sunshine Coast. Each of those runners in the marathon will more than likely have a wearable camera. There'll be drones flying overhead, filming the whole thing. Imagine the footage and imagery that would come out of that. So people all around the world will get to see this point of view experience of the games, but they'll also get to see the amazing scenery and what Brisbane and southeast Queensland has to offer. So that is exciting. And if there's an event on the Gold Coast or an event on the Sunshine Coast, people will think that is all Brisbane. They will. Like, it's the Brisbane region. I've got a submission in to rename the Gold Coast Brisbane South and the Sunshine Coast Brisbane North, and Toowoomba Brisbane West. We've already got the Brisbane West Airport up there, and so it will be really good for the recognition of the city.
I like the forward planning. Is good. Good luck with getting those 22 people over the line with that on the board, by the way. But one of the things that Jason mentioned was, and I'm glad you touched on it, is the fact that it will be hosted across multiple regions. So you mentioned that, local regions. And the other one was that there are a number of events that will be hosted pre the Olympics in the lead up to it. Not only for the teams coming to the region to actually practice, before that they'll come over to have a look at the territory, so to speak, and they'll actually rebuild, like BMX, for example. Multiple countries around the world will build a BMX track that's going to be the same as the one here so that they can actually practice that. So there's an enormous amount of things happening over the next 10 years, which a lot of us wouldn't actually even think about.
It's, when you're thinking about the sport and sport participation, it's easy to think there's going to be X number of Olympic venues, but it's so much more than that, like you've alluded to. So teams and countries around the world invest a lot of money into their Olympic teams. And so countries tend to specialise in certain sports, like obviously Australia is massive when it comes to swimming. So we invest a lot of money as a nation into swimming. Other countries might be focused on things like gymnastics, like rowing, and they will pump millions of dollars into those programs. And they will come out here years in advance and literally upgrade local facilities so that their people can come out here each year and train. The Olympics will be held in July and August 2032. And so for years in advance, you'll have people coming from all around the world to Brisbane in July and August to train in that period, get acclimatised, get used to it, and they'll be investing in local facilities as well. So it might be the German rowing team might turn up and spend $3 million upgrading a local rowing club just to train here. We'll benefit from that. So there's a lot of those opportunities around as well, and it goes just beyond the Olympic venues. It goes to local sporting clubs, and I think there'll be massive benefits from that.
Absolutely.